Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to Political Landscape for this Friday, the 10th of November 2023. This week, Professor Chossudovsky would like to come back on some details regarding some alliance, regarding what is happening in the Middle East. And also, he would like to just explain some geopolitical information issues that are very important for us to understand. Hello, Professor. How are you today?
Yes, good afternoon. Delighted to be on the program. This Middle East war is unfolding, and I think what we must understand is that it is not strictly a war of Israel against the people of Palestine. It's a much broader war, and in effect, the Israeli government is a proxy of Washington. My understanding, having reviewed the documents, including classified documents and the history, is that we should be in solidarity with Palestine, but we should understand that it is the United States of America which has ordered this genocide on their behalf. And they are essentially using the ideology of Zionism to justify a broader military agenda which would extend across the Middle East and which would specifically target Iran. So that when we express our solidarity with Palestine, we have to point to the role of the United States. There are a few countries whose leaders have endorsed Israel in leading a genocide, a crime against humanity, bombing schools and hospitals and killing children. But that project emanates from the United States, from the military industrial complex, from powerful financial groups. And there's a whole history of war preparations directed against Iran. They go back to the Iraq-Iran war, which was engineered by the United States. And then there are documents which were issued by Central Command headquarters, which are dated 1995. First Iraq, then Iran. I mean, the plan to wage war on Iran has been on the drawing board of the Pentagon, certainly for about, I would say, for more than 30 years, going back to the 90s. Then we had various initiatives, and there were classified documents which were actually revealed. Theater Iran Near Term, that was the logo of one of those plans, which was declassified. But that was 20 years ago. But what I'm saying, we now have what appears to be motivated by Zionism, the ideology of Zionism, the promised land, the greater Israel. But bear in mind, the greater Israel coincides geographically with what the United States have called the New Middle East, which is their project of conquest of the Middle East, which would essentially exclude solidarity between the various countries which have a common history, and have this hub in Israel where they can control, where they have a geopolitical control, and so on and so forth. Now, let me get specifically to some very important details. In the last week or so, there's been an extensive process of militarization, a formidable presence, not only with aircraft carriers and warships, but hundreds of advanced jet fighters in the Eastern Mediterranean and also in the Red Sea. The CIA director, William Burns, arrived last Sunday for consultations in Israel. And of course, they are working together. And I can say very specifically, the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, has within it special forces which are detached from the U.S. military and which are involved in the attack on the Gaza Strip, and they also, of course, secret agreements on excluding Palestinians from their homeland. There's an agreement with Egypt, a secret agreement with Egypt, and so on and so forth, to push the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip into the Sinai Desert, into refugee camps, but at the same time, the bombing campaign and the killing of civilians is ongoing. Now, when I say that this deployment, this massive deployment of weapon systems by the United States and its allies, including NATO, and NATO has an agreement with Israel, it has nothing to do with coming to the rescue of Israel. Israel has all the capabilities, extensive capabilities, to attack the Gaza Strip with advanced weapon systems against a resistance which essentially has minimal military capabilities. So in other words, they're fighting a resistance which has what? Kalashnikovs and so on. And then we are led to believe that Israel needs $13 billion of US military aid to help them in this endeavor against a helpless population. So this is all based on lies. The deployment of US military hardware is intended to broaden this war to the Middle East. And there's something very important in this particular context. Why is Iran the target? Well, Iran is among, together with Russia, is one of the largest producers of natural gas. And if you look at the data, and that's very important, we are in a situation where essentially three countries, which are Russia, Iran, and Qatar, control approximately 60% of the reserves of natural gas. And the United States has about 5% of the reserves of natural gas. It's not to say that the United States is not producing, is producing in large quantity and exporting to the European Union, which is not allowed to buy Russian gas. In fact, they do. But in other words, Russia, Iran, and Qatar have something of the order of 60%. And what is very significant is that Iran and Qatar have a joint project. It's a partnership for the exploitation of maritime gas in the Persian Gulf. And this is something you can see on the map. There's the South Pass field, which belongs to Iran, and then the North Gas field. But the exploitation is together, and it's a partnership between the two countries. And it also signifies that Qatar is an ally of Iran. But if you view, of course, the capabilities of the reserves of Qatar, Qatar has, on its own, Qatar has about 12% of the total reserves of natural gas worldwide, and it's collaborating with Iran. Now, what is at stake there from a military standpoint is, first of all, and that's ongoing, is to attempt to destabilize this relationship between Qatar and Iran. Okay? And how they're doing that? There was a meeting between Biden and the Prince of Qatar, who came to Washington. They chatted and so on. And then Biden said, we would like to offer Qatar the status of a NATO non-member. Well, the NATO non-member are associate members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Israel is also a de facto member. But what really this points to is the fact that the United States really wants to ensure that Qatar is on their side, and that at one point they can, if they're targeting Iran, that they can actually break the partnership between Iran and Qatar, which is ongoing. Now, what is at stake is what is at stake are war plans directed against Iran, and of course, Israel may play a crucial role in this regard, because, first of all, because they have nuclear weapons. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier program, that during the Bush administration, Dick Cheney, who's vice president, had mentioned quite forcefully, he said, we might get Israel to do the work, the dirty work for us. In other words, this process could lead us into a nuclear war. And there was another decision which was taken just recently in the month of June by the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Congress. It was an act of Congress which stipulated that Iran is a threat to the security of America because Iran has nuclear weapons. And this is unacceptable to us. Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. This was invented. But then they come up with a decision which says and that is, you can consult it. It's available also on our website, that they provide permission to the US military to wage war on Iran because allegedly Iran has nuclear weapons. Now, Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. That is absolutely clear-cut. But the country that does have nuclear weapons is Israel, undeclared. And they collaborate with the United States. So what I'm saying is, here we have a situation where we have a complex system of alliances, mind you. We have major actors, often in a contradictory context. If we compare this to you know, to Bismarck's analysis of you know, prior to World War I, we're dealing with something which is much, much more complex, because you have Turkey. Turkey plays a strategic role because it controls the corridors for the sale of energy. Okay, the pipelines and so on. It is not a country which is at the same level as Iran as far as reserves of energy, but it links the Caspian Sea to the Black Sea, and of course it is officially a member of NATO, but at the same time it has alliances with Iran and with Russia, so that we have a very unstable. We have important alliances which are against the United States intervention, but at the same time, which are cross-cutting alliances. So as far as Turkey is concerned, they're allied with, they're a member of NATO, but at the same time, they have military cooperation agreements with Moscow and Tehran. So it is exceedingly complex and dangerous. And then again, I mentioned Qatar, which in fact, Qatar also hosts it hosts one of the largest Air Force facilities in the Middle East, very close to Doha, and at the same time, it has relations with Iran. Now, I think it has been recognized from various observers that we might be in for a broadening of this war, and that is why the solidarity movement has to target the United States and NATO. Okay, it's not simply Netanyahu, and Netanyahu has a criminal record. Everybody in Israel knows that, and it seems that it doesn't really matter. All our heads of state and heads of government say, oh, we don't have any problems with Netanyahu. But the issue of is not simply an issue of having a ceasefire. It's an issue of demilitarizing the entire region. The United States is present. It's not a U.S. region, as far as I can tell. So they have their whole structure of naval and air force, submarines, etc. And this is what we have to demand: is not only solidarity with Palestine, but demilitarization of the Middle East. And at the same time, we might, of course, we observe at the same time that the United States is threatening in 3 different areas of the world: Eastern Europe on the one hand, the Middle East, and then, of course, East Asia, where it's targeting, not only targeting China, but it is also targeting North Korea, or threatening North Korea. Now, and if this whole situation gets out of control, it could also lead to the use of nuclear weapons.
We would like to thank you this week for your return on the situation, and I would like to invite everybody who are listening to the show to visit your website, that is globalization.ca. Thank you, everyone.